Hello, YouTube. Let's talk about ancient robots again. I have some more interesting information I want to share with you about this fascinating subject. The word robot was coined by the Czech writer Karel Čapek back in 1920. In his play RUR, Rossum Universal Robots, humanoid biochemical robot workers are the ones that are doing the acting, so to say. According to many scientists and futurists, specialists who predict the future development of science, technology, and society based on scientific analysis. Well, according to them, we're just entering the age of robots, and their numbers and varieties will increase every year. Mention of automatic humanoid machines is often found in ancient Greek myths. For example, the blacksmith god Hephaestus was a surprisingly skilled craftsman who created many amazing machines. He forged several tripods, very important term by the way, on golden wheels that moved by themselves and served the gods who had visited Hephaestus. And since Hephaestus limped, he also forged two golden maidservants, girls who had strength, intelligence, and voice. They supported Hephaestus with the arms when he went out for a walk, waited on him, and amused him with talking and singing. That's what the book Iliad tells us. Another myth tells how the supreme god Zeus entrusted the protection of the island of Crete to the iron giant named Talos. Hephaestus also made it. Of course, Talos was all metal with a horned head, and he had a single blood artery that ran through his entire body from head to toe, where it was plugged with a nail. The iron giant walked around the island, drove away other people's ships, throwing rocks at them and loudly shouting the laws of King Minos of Crete. When one day the enemies decided to land on Crete, Talos began to burn with red fire, with which he killed the attackers. Nevertheless, the sorceress Medea managed to outwit him with fake visions and pulled the nail out of the artery. The black, greasy blood flowed out, and Talos lost his power. Since that time, Crete has remained defenseless. Having looked at the history of Talos through modern eyes, it is easy to find appropriate technical analogies. For example, black blood is fuel, fake visions, radar pulses that affect the program, etc. But it is possible to approach this legend with the technical standards of 20th century or not. Nevertheless, whatever it was, Talos and other creations of Hephaestus are very similar to those android robots described by science fiction writers, and engineers are beginning to design such machines, and soon will start mass production, as I learned today. And how many mentions of artificial humanoid creatures in the mythologies of other people around the globe. These are the Sasrikva, Nart in the Abkhazian epic, and the ingenious products of the Finland's blacksmith Ilmarinen in Kalevala, wonderful book. And also the artificial man in the Icelandic Younger Edda, and the clay giant golem made by the Prague Rabbi Ben Bezalel. The 11th century Kashmiri poet Somadeva, in his work Ocean of Legends or Tales, tells about two craftsman brothers, the eldest of whom made two cunningly arranged geese and forced them to steal valuables for him from the royal treasury with the help of hidden strings. They may not be humanoid, but what are miniature robots with remote control? Think about it. Let's start with the amazing technical solutions and gadgets. And the search for them leads us to the Indian subcontinent. So since the 19th century, Indian literature has periodically revealed an undoubted fascination with technology, animated dolls, automatons, let's say androids, and even aircraft. The first example is taken from the poetic collection of fairy tales known as the Ocean of Tales, or Legends, Katasaritsagara, compiled in the 11th century by that Kashmiri poet Somadeva. The text contains many storylines. Some of them migrated from the collection of the 4th century Brihadkathi. In one story, for example, Prince Naravahadnadatta and his companion Minister Gomukha come to a city located on a wooded seashore. Upon entering it, they are surprised to find that the city is inhabited by a huge number of wooden automations or automatons made in the form of women, merchants, and other urban residents who move about as if alive, but they can easily be recognized as automatons because they do not speak. Arriving at the royal palace, Naravahanadatta and Gamukha observed many automatic horses and elephants, and inside the palace, on a jewel throne, surrounded by mechanical wooden servants and court maids, sat a majestic-looking man named Rajyadharhara, who told the travelers the amazing story of the creation of wooden robots. I will not retell the whole story, although it is magnificent. I'll only point out that semi-automatic geese and a wonderful aircraft with ingenious device that could cover a distance of about 1,600 to 2,600 kilometers. It's in that story. Despite the fact that Somadeva does not give details of the internal structure and does not explain the principle of operation of wooden automata, machines, and aircraft, it is clear from his story these gadgets do not function at the behest of a magic wand. They contain not magic, but mechanisms hidden from prying eyes. Another story preserved in the Ocean of Legends tells about the skillful architect of the lower worlds, Surra, and his daughters. Surra was the architect of beautiful palaces, and in some ways, he resembles that Greek Hephaestus. Levitating cities, think about it, levitating cities. He was the creator of flying chariots and many other outlandish things, at least in someone's eyes. The craftsman had two daughters. The eldest one was engaged in household management, and the youngest, named Somaprabha, was given in marriage to Nalakubara, the son of the god of wealth Kubera. Surra taught Somaprabhu various tricks of his craft, including the creation of wonderful movable wooden dolls. Perhaps these puppets were a kind of puppet theater. They moved most likely with the help of hinges. In general, movable wooden dolls have been known since the time of the 12th dynasty, from the 20th to 18th century before Common Era of the Egyptian pharaohs. Such dolls were placed in the sarcophagi of little girls. Later, the Greeks and Romans also used to make such dolls, performing some details but they were made not from wood but from clay. However, according to Somadeva's writings, Somaprabha dolls were real automatons, real androids. Obeying the slightest movement of her hands, some of them ascended into the sky and immediately returned, holding flower garlands in their hands. Others carried water, others danced, others told funny stories, and what else they could not do? Somaprabha's friend Kalingasena, who saw these miracles, was so impressed that she could not do anything all day. And her friend had to call the doctor to examine her. They say everything is fine. It's just that the girl is in great amazement. Soma Prabha invites Kalinga Sena to his home, where the girl sees a magnificent garden with a pond full of golden lotuses, in which trees with sweet fruits grow. And there are also many birds, monkeys, fountains, columns inlaid with precious stones, and other curiosities. So, and when Kalinga Sena is ready, Soma Prabha takes her home in an airship similar to that described in the legend of Rajyadhara. The description of the Maya Surra garden is a little like the mechanical garden of Bhoja Paramara, the Maharaja of the small state of Malwa of the 11th century. Bhoja adored poetry, patronized sciences and crafts, and was himself not devoid of certain talents. It is said that he personally wrote, among other 80 treatises, a collection of fairy tales called Sringaramanjari, which begins with a description of King Bhoja himself sitting on a throne in his palace, surrounded by close friends and relatives. The garden described in the work is very complex, well-established mechanism. It contains a huge number of artificial moving objects. These are not only metal trees and artificial lotuses, but also mechanical ducks, monkeys, fish, herons, crocodiles, turtles, and most importantly, female servants. Most of these machines are made of precious metals and stones, and each machine does some kind of work. Mechanical turtles and crocodiles either completely submerge into the water or stick out of their shelters for a while. Mechanical ducks and cranes hunt in the water for food. A pair of mechanical black bees buzz in the bud of an open water lily. A flock of artificial monkeys climbed an artificial tree. Several female figures play lutes and drums while others bathe. The machines were moving, making sounds, and most importantly, splashing waters. Monkeys from their mouth and maids from their breasts and nails. In medieval Indian literature, we find descriptions of miracles and mechanical automata, or automations, that perform rather complex, apparently pre-programmed actions. Well, let's go to China. Descriptions of robot-like creatures, which are also contained in the ancient Chinese text, are very interesting. Doctor of philology, I mentioned before, Lisevich, a specialist in the Old Chinese language, has studied in detail these descriptions, which deal with the oldest period of the Chinese history, the 3rd millennium before Common Era. You can look at my other videos about ancient China and ancient aliens of China, but here I'll repeat a few things. At that time, the mythical first emperors of China, the sons of heaven, seemed to be rulers in the Yellow River Valley. During the reign of one of them, Huangdi, vessel carts appeared in the mountains, the appearance of which amazed all residents. These vessels, they say, were like silver glazed tiles, like cinnabar red ceramics. The carts could move over heavily rugged mountainous terrain, and no one was harnessed to them. And this is usually emphasized in myths. The biggest mystery is the way these carts move. There are no wheels in them. Hooks are hanging, no one adjusts, directs. They twist themselves bending. Well, think about it. Isn't there an analogy with a crawler car or crawler vehicle? Isn't that right? What did the ancient Chinese authors mean? Who and for what could have made such vessel carts 5,000 years ago? At the same time, with mountain carts, which were known in northern China, some mysterious Chi Yu and his numerous assistants were operating in its southern part. The description of this Chi Yu is also associated in our imagination with a complex multifunctional robot. He had 4 eyes, 6 arms, manipulators, a copper head with an iron forehead, and some kind of tridents instead of ears. Like the mountain cart, Chi Yu could move over rough terrain and even take off into the air for a short time. He ate rocks, sand, and even iron. When Chi Yu died, so to say, the locals buried his head and came to worship it for a long time. From time to time, a cloud of steam rose up from the grave and glowed red color. Lisevich found descriptions of robots in later Chinese texts too. One of them, which dates back to the 4th century before Common Era, tells how the master brought the robot he made to, or craftsman, brought the robot he made to King Mu. This mechanical servant could sing and dance, transformed and changed in thousands ways, fulfilling any desire. It's just like a transformer. He was capable of independent actions. This is what forced the craftsman to finally disassemble his work. It can be seen from the text that this robot was nothing more than a biomechanical unit, the likeness of a human with a full set of artificial internal organs. The king examined everything carefully, and everything turned out to be artificial inside. Liver, gallbladder, heart, lungs, spleen, kidneys, intestines, and stomach. Externally, muscles with bones, limbs with joints, skin with hair, teeth and hairstyle. Is this science fiction of the 4th century before Common Era, or a description of something that actually existed? What do you think? After all, today such biorobots are basically still a dream of scientists and engineers, such androids. And why not assume that some inventors and scientists of the Middle Ages had access to unknown, ancient, esoteric knowledge in the field of robotics? The learned monk Herbert Orliac, I think he lived in 920 in the period to 1003, who eventually became Pope Sylvester II, writes that he had an automation that answered the questions. The Pope himself designed it based on some stellar and planetary aspects. This robot seemed to answer yes or no to important questions from politics to religion. According to legend, after the death of the Pope, the magical head of the machine was exposed for review. Many medieval scientists tried to create an artificial humanoid creature, a homunculus. The alchemists are not even worth mentioning here. They devoted almost more time to this than to the search for the philosopher's stone. And there is evidence that some of the scientists, those who had access to ancient books on magic and managed to decipher the text, may have managed to get closer to solving this fantastically difficult task. It is possible that one of them was Albert the Great Magnus, who lived in 1193 to 1280 period and was a very enlightened man for his time. He left us a number of works on alchemy, medicine, mathematics, and astronomy. It can be seen from Magnus's biography that for almost 20 years he worked on aneroid, a mechanical man who moved, talked, and did his homework. The machine was made of metals and unknown substances selected according to the instructions of the stars. The aneroid served Magnus and his disciple Thomas Aquinas. One day, Thomas, driven to frenzy by the robot's eloquence, grabbed a hammer and smashed the machine. And the word aneroid has remained in the scientific literature. Look, there are so many legends and stories about robots. I've made a few videos about them. You can see them from legends coming from different parts of the world. And given the real technical knowledge and achievements of our distant, or maybe not so distant ancestors, why not believe it? I think it's a fascinating subject, and I will touch upon it again. And I want to thank you for your attention to my work and my research. And if you can help my research, you will find the links on how to do it in the description to this video. Please tell others about my channel. Please like my videos. And I'll bring you more stories soon.